Today, our topic is invisible and invaluable. This is a story by Joel Osteen. He says a friend of his in Houston is an equipment manager for a professional basketball team. He's in charge of getting all the uniforms, the balls, the training materials to the stadium before the team arrives. Many times they'll land for an away game in the middle of the night. 2 o'clock in the morning, he'll go from there straight to the arena, get everything set up for the next day. And he studies each player to find out what their preferences, what their druthers are. He goes to great lengths to make sure their locker is exactly the way they want it. And when game time rolls around, you don't see him. He's invisible when the cameras and the lights are on and the TVs are reeling. The point is that they wouldn't be where they were without his invisible and yet invaluable support. Joel says that he had lunch with him one time. He commented about how dedicated he is. And the man made this statement. He says, "I'm invisible, but I'm invaluable. The team couldn't get along without me. Nobody sees me, but I do know that without me, things wouldn't be nearly what they are." I think it takes a mature person, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, to say, I'm okay with being invisible. I'm okay with helping you to shine. I'm secure enough in who I am that I can be comfortable behind the scenes, playing my supportive role, not frustrated because I'm not in the limelight, I'm not getting the credit, not jealous because nobody's talking about me. No, I'm content to make other people look good. I may be invisible, but I know I'm invaluable. And when you have this kind of an attitude, what you're doing is you're sowing a seed. And when you push other people up, when you make them look good, when your time rolls around to be promoted, when it's your time to shine, Almighty Lord, who knows everything about everything you've ever done, He'll make sure what goes around comes around. As you've pushed other people up, God will send people to push you up at the right time. We just have to right now pass the test of being content when we're invisible. An article in Forbes magazine by Jim Boss called "Navigating Chaos: How to Find Certainty in Uncertain Situations." A few bullet points here. One is, humble people are more likely to be competent and confident in themselves, so much so that they seek their own actualization by helping others. Humble people don't feel the impetus to boast about themselves, but instead they let their actions speak for their ideals. To be humble is not to think less of oneself, but to think of oneself less. Second bullet point. Humble people know their self-worth. As a result, they don't feel like they need to cast themselves before others to show them how much they know and how great they are. Third point. Humble people make difficult decisions more easily. Why? Because they put others' needs before their own. When they're faced with difficult decisions, they respect moral and ethical boundaries that govern their decision-making process. They make their criterion a sense of shared purpose rather than self-interest. Fourth, and I like this one especially, humble people have an abundance mentality. Humble people don't believe that one person's success is another's failure. Humble people don't believe that another person's win translates into their loss. Instead, they know there's plenty of opportunity to go around. I think, and you'll agree with me, that the recent election was driven a scarcity mentality. God-centered people, all people should know that there's no scarcity in the kingdom of God. Everybody, if their lives are God-centered, can experience abundance beyond the furthest limits of their imagination. And you know what? The kingdom of God will not consequently go bankrupt. So one symptom of truly humble and self-confident people is that they see others' success as their success. There's plenty to go around. The only thing we have to do is just do our part and put God in first place. A lot of times we think, well, true, I'm doing all the work at my company. Nobody thanks me. Nobody gives me credit. Nobody appreciates me. We're here tonight to tell you, don't let that worry you, because you're not working for people. You're working under God. He keeps very, very good accounts. They may not thank you. They may not give you the credit, but Krishna, God, is going to give you the credit. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, our spiritual master, said these words in a rune conversation. So Krishna is presenting to us a doctrine of humility, that you have to give up your vain pursuits and give up your pride and surrender unto Him. He's not begging for your attention in the way that somebody wants some money or some false teacher is begging. He is complete in Himself, and He wants only your love. So if you can find out this secret and find someone who can teach you that secret, the art of love of God, then you will have found your guru and your life will be perfect. And when you're behind the scenes, invisible, helping somebody else to shine, making your supervisor look good, teaching that co-worker your skills, going out of your way to help others excel, Lord Krishna sees what you're doing. He's saying, that's my boy. That's my girl. When it's your time, He knows how to get you to where you're supposed to be. Right now, you're okay with being invisible. If you'll just remember that as well as being invisible, you're also, what? Invaluable. Great. That company wouldn't be nearly what it is without you. That person you've been investing in, they wouldn't shine as brightly. They wouldn't be as successful without your efforts. They may not acknowledge it. They may never even thank you. They may even forget about you and think they did it on your own. That's okay. Krishna, God, sees it, and that's all that really matters. Krishna knows every seed you've sown, every encouraging word that you've given, every sacrifice you've made. He knows every detail about your life. So every one of us, even if we should be in the spotlight, should try to be invisible in somebody's life, behind the scenes, helping somebody to grow, encouraging them, calling out other seeds of greatness. Not looking for any credit, not announcing, hey, everybody, look what I'm doing. Not making them think, boy, you really owe me big time. Did you see how much extra work I had to pour into your life? No. Do it quietly, in humility. Do it unto God, unto Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Football season. On December 11th, 1967, the Dallas Cowboys were playing the Green Bay Packers for the NFC National Championships. This game was dubbed the Ice Bowl because it was 41 degrees below zero with the wind chill factor. Came down to the final play. It was the fourth quarter. The Cowboys were leading 17-14 with just 16 seconds in the game. The Packers were on the 1-yard line. So quarterback Bart Starr, he asked Jerry Kramer, one of the offensive linemen, if Jerry could punch a hole through the defensive line, the Cowboys, to get him through for a quarterback sneak and the touchdown. Kramer said he could do it. The ball was snapped. True to his word, Kramer pushed his opponent off the line, and Bart Starr walked into the end zone. Hardly anybody laid a hand on him. The crowd went wild. People streamed onto the field. They were pounding Bart Starr's back. They mobbed him. And Jerry Kramer was just kind of standing off to the side, feeling a little unrecognized, a little left out. After all, he'd done the heavy lifting, and Bart Starr just really promenaded into the end zone. But he looked off to the side and he saw the legendary coach, Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi wasn't looking at all the celebration, all the brouhaha. He wasn't looking at the quarterback. He was looking right at Jerry Kramer. And he put a thumbs up. He put a thumbs up. So it didn't matter that the crowd didn't appreciate him. It didn't matter even that the team didn't appreciate him, the fans. What was noticed was by the man that mattered, the coach, who told him that although he was invisible, he was invaluable. Thank you, like that. But we have to work with what God's given us. If not, you're going to try to promote yourself. You're going to try to compete with other people, try to outperform them. Spend all of your time trying to walk in somebody else's shoes when God gave you a perfectly good pair of shoes to walk in too. I'm not going to get wrung in knots over the fact that my sister can have kids and I can't have kids, or my brother's more athletic and gets more praises from my parents than me. Krishna puts people in our lives so we can support them, cheer them on, and help them succeed in the particular unique talents and abilities with which they're gifted. But we also have to be secure enough in who we are that we can celebrate other people without being envious and wishing that we were more like them. We have to say, bottom line, I'm okay those times when I'm invisible. I realize that my role in your story is to help you shine, to make you look good, to use my gifts to help you go further. Unfortunately, human nature all too often says, no, you can't let them get ahead. If they get ahead, they're going to outshine you. If you teach that coworker what you know, eventually they'll take your job. No, that's the wrong attitude. That's not the attitude that Krishna, God, appreciates. Krishna put those people in your life on purpose so that you could push them to their destiny. Not to compete with them, not to be envious of them, but rather to say, Krishna, look, I'm going to do my best to make them look good with full faith and confidence that you will help me to look good when my time comes. After all, God will get us to where we're supposed to be. He created us to help other people. One of the greatest joys in life is to help somebody else succeed, to help somebody else shine. They may even end up going further than you. That's okay. You're not running their race. When you come to the end of your life, you're not going to be asked, did you keep up with your relative? Did you outperform your coworker? Did you have more stuff, a bigger house, a fancier car than your neighbor? No. God's going to ask you, did you do what you were created to do? Did you accomplish your assignment? Prime example of this we find in the Mahabharata. There was a young man, his name was Devabrata. He was the son of King Santanu, who was king of the known world at that time. And as the oldest son of the king, he was next in line to ascend to the throne. But things ended up not working out that way. His father, his first wife had died, met another woman that he conceived an attraction to, and he wanted to remarry her. Now, Devabrata was the only son from a previous wife. He was so secure in being who he was that even though his father didn't tell him that his father wanted to remarry, he intuited it from his father. And he didn't try and stop it. He didn't try to interfere. He went to the young lady, whose name was Satyavati. He went to her father and asked for his daughter's hand in marriage for his father, Santanu. But there's a stigma in India that if you've been married and you've had previous sons, the father doesn't want to give his daughter away to someone that's been married before and has children, because those children will be the inheritors of the estate, and his children will be second class. So the father of Satyavati said, no, I won't let my daughter marry your father, because you'll marry, you'll have kids, and your kids will beat up on my sons. Bhisma, he made this vow. It was a twofold vow. First of all, although I am the heir to the throne, I renounce. I will not take the throne. If you let your daughter marry my father, her children can supersede me and become the throne, and I will support them. And then the fisherman said, I have another objection, but if you get married and then you have children, they'll be envious of their cousins and there'll be rivalry. So this Devabrata made what's called a terrible vow. In Sanskrit, when you make a terrible vow, the name for it is Bhisma. Bhisma. So not only did he renounce the throne, which was rightfully his, just for the satisfaction of his father so he could marry again, but he said, and this is highly unusual because Kshatriyas always married, and in the old days they had multiple wives. So he made this vow, I will never marry. I'll never have kids that would be potential rivals to your kids. And this was such a terrible vow for a warrior to make and a future king that the demigods, Bhisma, Bhisma, kettle drums rolled, conch shells blew, and showers of flour came down. Anyway, time went on. Satyavati married, and she had 2 sons, Chitragana and Vichittaviri. Unfortunately, they died. So once again, the pathway to the throne was open to Bhisma. And his stepmother, Satyavati, after all said, well, that vow doesn't really apply because you did everything you could to give my sons the throne, but it's not your fault they died. So now you just become the king. It says in the Mahabharata, Bhisma stood up and he looked out of the lattice window there on the terrace. It says a full moon illuminated the palace gardens, and there was a silver light cast across the broad sandstone pass. He turned back to Satyavati and he said, we cannot thwart providence by acting immorally. In all circumstances, a virtuous man acts in obedience to the will of God. Auspiciousness and victory always attend virtue, while grief is the sure result of unrighteousness. Therefore, please do not ask me to abandon my vow. So then he went out and he found 2 more candidates for the throne, Dhritarashtra and Pandu. What he's telling us, it's better to be comfortable in who Lord Krishna made you to be. If he made you to be number 1, then go ahead, be number 1. But if he made you to be number 2, be comfortable in that. It's better you not try to become something you're not. When you try to take yourself to somewhere where you're not supposed to be, it's not going to be a blessing. It's going to be a curse. It's going to be a constant struggle, like you're always swimming upstream. There's no grace on that kind of a life. You're never going to actually come into your season and become that person of faith that you are meant to be. There will be an anointing. You will be able to fulfill your destiny if you're always looking for opportunities to push other people up. And that was the life of Bhisma. His whole life, he never took anything for himself, but he was always helping others to succeed, pushing them forward. And in such a life, God promises that he will always end up glorifying you in due course of time. So when you see other people, you can take time to help them out by just speaking a good, encouraging word, or maybe connecting them with somebody in a field in which they're interested, or giving them a ride to the temple. There are so many ways that we can input into the lives of others. Use our time and energy, not that you give up your dreams, but while you're pursuing your dreams, while you're reaching up, don't forget to reach back and also give others a helping hand. And when you're sowing into others, here's the secret. Everybody's all wanting to know what the secret is. Here's the secret. Karma is action and reaction. When you sow the seed, you face the deed. Whatever you do comes back to you. Law of cause and effect ensures the balance is perfect. Detecting whatever you do, good and bad, it will resurrect. Death is not the end, it's just a bend. Whatever you've done will circle back again. The body may die, but your karma is standing by. You'll be reborn to live and die, continue to suffer and cry. As the aroma follows the flowers, heat pursues the fire, your karma will track you as soon as you leave the funeral pyre. Karma decides how you'll be reborn, comely or scored, higher humility, straight or deformed, healthy or ill, long or short-lived, animal, human, sheltered or drift. The last chapter of this story of Bhisma is that after Dhritarashtra was born blind and he was disqualified, and after Pandu again died, Bhisma wanted Pandu's young son, Yudhishthira, to be the king. And because Yudhishthira was a pious, righteous devotee of Lord Krishna, Bhisma knew that he'd be the best person for the job. So in order to crown Yudhishthira, there was one problem. There was somebody named Duryodhana who was not okay with being number 2. Duryodhana had a beautiful wife, he had his own kingdom, he had wealth, he had everything, but he couldn't stand to be number 2 to Yudhishthira. Even though Yudhishthira was righteous, pious, virtuous, loved by all the people, Duryodhana had this flaw. He would not be number 2. So he conspired against the Pandavas, and in the end, the scene of the Bhagavad Gita is that Duryodhana has raised a huge army to fight and to annihilate the Pandavas. In order for Yudhishthira to be the king, then the Pandavas would have to overcome this huge army which outnumbered them. Now, here's the twist. Bhisma had been in the employ of Duryodhana for many years. And so when it came time to choose, he was morally obliged by previous vows that he made to fight against Yudhishthira. Do you see what's happening? Bhisma wants Yudhishthira to be the king, but Bhisma finds himself the general of the army opposing Yudhishthira. So what do you think Bhisma does now? The only way that Yudhishthira can become king is if Bhisma is killed. That's the only path. It goes not around, not to the left or right, but it has to go over Bhisma. So what do you think Bhisma does now as the ultimate sacrifice? He reveals to the Pandavas the secret to how he'd been killed. I won't go into the story, but he was invulnerable, he was unconquerable except for one flaw. And he revealed that secret to Yudhishthira so that he could be killed. And then ultimately, Yudhishthira, the right person, would be king. So just like Bhisma had done, he supported his father. Then he supported his stepbrothers, Vichitrabhira and Chitraganda. And then he worked for Yudhishthira and Pandu. And then finally, he gave up his own life, working behind the scenes to keep the throne of the world intact and consistent. In the same way that Bhisma was the unsung hero over and over again, keeping to his vows, never departing from his promise, promoting and pushing others forward, even at the cost of his own life, Krishna, the super soul who was on the planet at that time, was also working behind the scenes. As Bhisma was working behind the scenes for others, Krishna is working behind the scenes to Bhisma, pushing him forward, promoting him. Finally, after Yudhishthira won the battle, and so many soldiers lost their lives, Yudhishthira didn't want to be king. He was a kind-hearted, gentle soul, and he was destroyed by the thought that so many soldiers died so that he could become king. Even Krishna didn't try to talk Yudhishthira out of ascending the throne. Krishna sent Yudhishthira to Bhisma, who was lying on a bed of arrows at the end of his life. It were the words of Bhisma that convinced Yudhishthira to take up the crown. And those words are celebrated thousands and thousands and thousands of years later. Krishna never forgot Bhisma. He gave Bhisma an honor unlike which any human being has ever been granted in the spiritual history of the world. When Bhisma finally was ready to give up his body after having been perforated through every square inch of his body with Arjuna's arrows, you can see from this picture, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the creator of millions and millions of universes, appeared personally before his faithful and unsung, yet unvaluable servant Bhisma to give him the ultimate blessing of being able to gaze directly at the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the moment of leaving his body. End of the story, Bhisma attained the perfection of quitting his body at will, and he was fortunate enough in the process to have Lord Krishna, the object of all of his devotion and attention, personally present at the time of his death. No one in all of mundane history has ever been favored in such a way. And these are the last words that Bhisma spoke before gloriously leaving his body. Krishna is the intimate friend of Arjuna. He's appeared on this earth in his transcendental body, which resembles the bluish color of the tamal tree. His body attracts everyone in the 3 planetary systems. May his glittering yellow dress and his lotus face, covered with paintings of sandalwood pulp, be the object of my attraction. At the moment of his death, Bhisma fixed his wide open eyes upon Lord Sri Krishna, who was standing before him. The ardent desire of Bhisma Dev was to see the person of Lord Krishna, his most lovable object, and by the grace of the Lord, Sri Bhisma Dev had this opportunity at the last stage of his breathing. The description goes on, in the momentous hour of leaving his material body, Bhisma Dev set the glorious example concerning the prime function of the human form of life. The subject matter which attracts the dying man becomes the beginning of his next life. Therefore, if one is absorbed in thoughts of Lord Krishna at the time of leaving the present body, he is sure, guaranteed, to go back to home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. For one, Krishna says, who remembers me without deviation, I am easy to attain, O Arjuna, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Here's the point. When you do good to people, you're sowing a seed. And that harvest will either come back to you multiplied many times over, or it will come back to your children and your grandchildren. But unfortunately, the society in which we live teaches us to get ahead at all costs. Exactly the opposite of the example that Bhisma set. Don't get in my way. I'm competing with you. I can't help you. I'm trying to outperform you. I want the credit. I want the recognition. Our message today is that's a very shallow way to live. You'll never, ever be truly fulfilled if you're only focused on yourself. Because when you help somebody else succeed, God is going to give you the ultimate victory. It may not come in 24 hours or a week or a month, but you will get the ultimate victory, because those seeds that you planted will yield fruits of peace, prosperity, joy, and fulfillment. When you're a Bhisma rather than a Duryodhana, not only will you use your gifts to help others rise higher, and not only will you celebrate other people's success, not only will you not be envious of others being ahead of you, but ultimately God keeps the accounts. He will promote you beyond anything you could possibly dream of or imagine. If you're going to reach your fullest potential, you have to be happy for the people that pass you up. Don't be a fair-weathered friend when you're only going to be happy if they stay at your level. What if God destined them to be a king and you to be a Bhisma? Ask yourself, can you handle being number 2? Are you big enough to let them shine brighter than you? Pass the test of being happy when people rise higher. They may not have as much training, as much talent, or as much qualifications as you, but you just have to realize that's the sovereignty of God. Favor is not fair. Krishna can favor whoever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants. Why? Because he is sovereign. He is God. You can't say, true, I've paid my dues, I've worked after hours, I've got the seniority, this is not right. No, we're asking you today to be big enough to celebrate what God has done in somebody else's life. Scripture talks about how God lifts one up and he sets another down. So whether you get lifted up or whether you're getting set down in this particular season, you have a destiny to fulfill, a place where you're going to be in your sweet spot, seeing God's favor, doing exactly what you know you were created to do. That's why Bhisma wasn't frustrated when he didn't take the throne, because he was in his sweet spot, happy, fulfilled, enjoying life's journey. You don't have to be high profile to be fulfilled. You don't have to be the king to enjoy your life. You just have to learn to be happy with what you've got and where you are at the moment. Be content when you're not getting the credit. You may be invisible, but that does not lessen your importance. What you have to offer is unique, rare, and invaluable. When you keep the right heart, take time to sow in others, you're passing the test. Many times, Krishna will take you from being invisible to being visible, from the background to the foreground. One last example. You all know Barack Obama, famous name, but you've never heard, most likely, the name of David Plouffe. He was the invisible supporting the visible. He was in the background running Obama's campaign for becoming president. Not too long ago, he published a book called The Audacity to Win, and it talks about how he helped Obama win the presidency. The book became a bestseller, so he's no longer now being a best-selling author as invisible as he was before he wrote it. His time has come, you might say. But he talks about this very thing, the invisible invaluables. And a core message of invisibles is, if you reap reward from doing fulfilling, stimulating work, that will replace the need to be rewarded by attention and praise. What's universal for the invisibles is they're not motivated by status. Frankly, there is no evidence whatsoever that the American way of keeping up with the Joneses sustains any sort of lasting fulfillment. All the research supports the notion that intrinsic motivations are far more lasting and powerful than extrinsic ones, like money or attention. And there's something noteworthy about these invisibles being very fulfilled, working behind the scenes when it seems like most of us, in particular young people, are choosing to pursue work that will gain them the most attention. When you're secure in who Krishna or God made you to be, then you can be content that wherever Krishna has you at the moment, you know you're making a difference. As you keep passing these tests, Krishna will get you to where you're supposed to be. You don't have to promote yourself. You just have to keep honoring Krishna, being a person of excellence, sowing unto others. And when it's your time to get promoted, you will be promoted in a way that you cannot even begin to imagine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Friends, whether your assignment is large or small, be content to play your role. You may feel invisible, unappreciated, overlooked at times, but remember this: you're the ones who are truly invaluable. Krishna or God is keeping very good records. As you help others to shine, Krishna is going to cause you to shine. As you cause others to rise higher, Krishna is going to cause you to rise higher. As you help others to reach their destinies, you will fulfill your destiny in this life and the next life. You'll go back to home, back to God. Thank you very much for your kind attention. You're welcome to raise your arms along with me and say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. God bless each and every one of you.